Hello, everyone. We appreciate you coming today. We're going to play a lecture called A Competent Democracy. It'll be about 45 minutes, and then we'll take questions on that.
So I want to discuss participatory democracy, because a lot of people have asked, will we participate in the Venus Project? The design of the cities would be agreed upon before we do anything. Whatever members we have agree that that's what we want to build. The designers of the city are qualified architects, nursery people, who arrange the plans in combination, what plan supports other plans. That's their decision. So the landscaping would be done by professional landscapers. Amateur landscapers may not be as good, unless the professional landscapers say, I like this non-professional landscaper, and I'd like him to go ahead and do what he wants to do. You understand? But the design of the cities would be handled by the architectural department. The chemistry department will tell them how many square feet they need to do work in plastics or metallurgy. I have nothing to do with that. So the buildings are all educational, agricultural, but the square feet for each zone has nothing to do with the public. We might ask a plastics engineer, how many square feet do you need, and what type of equipment do you need to do a lot of studies in plastics? He says, I need at least 150 by 150 feet. Okay, they make that decision, not the public. In the medical department, we say, for a city of 5,000, are there always 500 people that are sick? What is statistical data? I don't know. Get the hospital right. Let's find out, for a city of 2 million, what percentage gets sick? Say 10%. That's the size of the hospital. A little above that for what we call national emergencies, like the spread of a new fever, which was happening very fast. So we don't just build exactly enough hospitals, we build more than enough. But they may be used temporarily for other purposes and then shifted as needed. Do you understand? So when the average person comes up and says, will I participate? If you walk into a hospital and a surgeon has a certain type of light that's right on the operation, and you notice something that is not good, and you suggest it, but don't suggest it during surgery. The public can go in and make suggestions, and we must rely on the experts, although the public may be right in some instances, say 2 times out of 10, but the expert may be right 5 times out of 10. So we have to say to a bridge designer, you guys designed the bridge, this is how much traffic goes over it. So is it a participatory democracy? No, it's a competent democracy. Do you know what that means? If you find out, let's say, you believe in natural foods, organic foods, we will feed people and keep a record of their health and resistance to disease on organic food. If the food is doctored up and it doesn't work, we'll say, this is what we found. But if you want to eat organic food, you can. And if you want to eat doctored food, you can. But there's no reason for doctors in the future to uphold organic or inorganic food, or whatever they believe in. There's no reason, no advantage. You don't make more money by selling tomatoes. So I would say, since there is no vested interest, there tends to be no bias. Do you understand what I'm saying? I can't understand how bias can occur in a society that's out to make everybody operate at their optimal condition. Now, we have plastics that disintegrate and they poison some of the food in jars and plastic containers. We have to do careful study. But if you're a container maker, I don't always feel I can trust you. If you sell containers, you say, my container doesn't contaminate food as much as the anti-containerites. If they form an organization, they will do all the research to prove that containers contaminate food. And the other organization gives you the degree of contamination. Then we ask, does that little bit of contamination hurt people? They say, we have to do another 3-month study, and we'll let you know. But whatever they come up with, we have to go by. Because the average person feels, I'm not eating natural food, I just don't feel right. It may be psychosomatic, it may be real, we don't know. So we have to rely on competency. Like if you go to work at Ford Motor Company and you work in the valve department, there is a director, a guy that's worked around valves for 20 years. Is he perfect? No. But he would have more information than you would on valves. How they coat, how to get the carbon off the valves. He may not. If he doesn't have enough information, another guy moves up. But it's not a democracy where everybody puts their 2 cents in. It sounds good, but it isn't good for people. If you have trains and one train is very crowded, you have to have an exit from one train to the other. If one train is too crowded, the people can walk into another train. You know, but I don't see any reason for participatory democracy if you have no vested interest. I would say today we get an estimate from a plumbing company to do plumbing in a new apartment. We don't get an estimate from people in general. They come over and they tell us it'll cost you $4,000. Only in the future they'll tell us the plumbing needed for 40 families. I don't know exactly. They know more about it than I do. So it never is a participatory democracy. So if you think about it, when you go and select an automobile, if there's a digest that tells you the miles per gallon and all that, it may be paid off, it may be vested interest, but if it's a magazine that gives you performance of a flashlight or whatever it is, without vested interest, do you know what I mean? They don't get money for batteries sold or anything. So I see a group of people, better than one person, of competency, where they say, we don't know yet, we have to do more studies of that battery. That's okay with me. And it's okay to tell society, when will I have access to television? I'll ask the producers and manufacturers of automated equipment, how long do you think it'll take to make televisions that's available to 40,000 people? They say, well, from our experience, it'll take about 3 months. Would you say 3 months and 3 weeks for sure? They say, oh yes. Well, their estimates are better than the average person. I can't see a non-trained person trained in any area participate. Not that it wouldn't work. Yes.
Don't you feel in the future when the city's up and running and people, as time goes on, people will have the fundamental knowledge of plumbing, of electricity? So it's
I don't think, though, you'd have all the people doing that. There'd only be a very few people in hydroponics. Like the Japanese found out, they can increase the seafood by 80% if they use strings under the salt water, so crustaceans can cling to the strings rather than the rocks. So we'll look up oriental ways of growing fish, and they will train as many people as they estimate are needed to feed 6 million people. I can't do that. Now, is that perfect? No. It's just a lot better than everybody participating. So when people ask you, well, I participate. All right, you want to go help build bridges? Well, I don't know anything about bridges, and you can't participate. Do you want to design electrical stuff for apartment houses? No, it's not my field. Well, what are you trained in? Crib making. Are you trained in artistic crib making or functional crib making? Do you know what I mean by that? There are artists that design Little Rocket for a Baby with an awning over it. All that was okay during this system. But in the future, babies are restricted in a crib. They don't have the range of motion. Like Kenneth Keyes was paraplegic. He couldn't move. Very little movement. So he made his bed do this and that. So if he wanted to turn over, he'd press a button with his elbow, and that would rotate him over. He didn't design the bed. He gave it to an engineering firm. He said, I want a bed that tilts and rocks, and I want to be able to control it going to the left or right. But it was hard for him to get up and go to the washroom. So if you pull a core up in the middle of the bed, he can piss in the core. You know what I mean? But that would be special design competency. You meet the person, you say, what can you do? He says, I can't move my arms or my legs. Can you move your head? Yes. Well, can you work a button with your nose or your chin? No. So the competency engineers will design a bed for your limitations. But you have to tell them what you want. You need to be able to drink water when you want to. So you need a water dispenser. And so that you can't get up and fill a glass with water. You have to tell them your limitations. And to the extent that you succeed in telling them your limitations, I would say they would have no reason to want to give you a smaller glass than you need, unless there's something wrong with them. Do you understand what I mean by that? Unless a guy say, hate sweets, and the sweet says, I'd like a big glass of water. So well, you're going to get what I give you. You won't have that because there's no reason for it. And now you don't rely on one person. There's always a group of people, and they try to meet your needs. Will they always meet your needs perfectly? No, but they'll do a hell of a lot better than nobody with not lack of competence. So when I mean competence, to go to work for an auto company, they give you a competence test. What do you do when the smoke comes out of the exhaust? That means that the valves are leaking. If you have the right answers, you're in the competency team. But first of all, goddamn it, I'm competent. But if they don't pass the competency test, it may be poor, it may be badly designed. Can you improve it? I know nothing other than a competency test. If a guy does surgery and he has 80% success, and another surgeon has 20% success, you can't afford to go to a guy with 80% success. But the 80% success surgeon in the Venus Project would become an instructor. And if he can't instruct, we'll photograph how he works, how his surgery differs from others. And we'll show that to other surgeons. And I say, gee, I see that now, why he's so successful. But if he keeps it to himself, he has a higher clientele. Do you understand that? Why should the doctor give their competence out freely? Because they can make more money by maintaining their surgical skills or other skills that are not shared. So I see this system as a system that tends not to share skills. if you agree with me. Like a person that says to me, suppose I wanted to participate. I said, what do you suggest to make a searchlight, a flashlight, lighter, better, longer lasting? So I can't do that. I said, then you're not competent in that area. Tell me where you feel you're competent. Well, I feel I'm competent in raising children. Well, what does that mean? Feeding them, teaching them? Are you an educator? We want to know what competency. Is that all right? Well, if you taught for 27 years and another person taught for 3 years, you may not be as good. So we would have to check out how your kids work. If you're teaching a guy how to service auto engines and the failure rate is 60%, the competency is taken away in that area, unless they go back to school. Is that all right? I don't know any other method. What do you think of that method of competency testing? So far,
it should be standard.
So,
Yeah,
if while the thing is being set up, normal people are inclined to install a democratic process, which they would vote me out. Do you understand that? Because they're brought up in a democracy. And I got all those problems to deal with, that people want to participate, but they don't know what competency means. So we have to have a lot of lectures before we build our first city. We have to talk about a lot of things and get them squared away. And if you can agree with competency testing as the only means we have today, then we can start. But if nobody agrees with that direction, they want a participatory democracy, I'll be voted out. And it'll work sometimes and other times it won't. Do you understand? I can't get up and say, from now on, we'll make a decision for you. The decision-making system that I have is one that was arrived at, not some petty fluke of my own interest. I don't know how else to do it to people I can't convince. I said, why don't you try your system outside the city, see if it works. We can have an experimental city where different systems are trying. Now, the people that try systems try to do research to show that their system is best. Do you know what that means, biased research? And so you have to have a panel that has no vested interest in research that examines their system and points out the limitations. Now, the non-professional will not agree with the professional. You understand that? That's the world you live in. Girl says, regardless of whether there's a God or not, I still want to get married. I feel more comfortable with a priest. Oh, if that's what she wants, she can do that. But we don't have divorce or marriage in our system. If you don't get along with somebody, you don't have to go to a marriage counselor. If you don't want to live with them, you move out. Will they be hurt? Yes. They may even want to kill you for deserting them. If you feel you've had enough of a certain person, a girl that you married, and later on you feel, I've had enough of that girl, you both don't always equally want to leave at the same time. And if you want to leave her before she feels she still loves you, what do you want to leave before? She will feel depressed and need help. But in a society where you train people to the fact that we seek people that meet our needs, and if we find one person that meets our needs, you stay with that person. If they don't meet your needs, you're going to want to leave, no matter how nice the person is. It has nothing to do with their niceness if they don't meet your needs. I asked some gangsters years ago, you're married, you've got a very beautiful wife, why do you go to her house? I asked them. And here's what the guy told me. He says, I like a blowjob. I can't ask the mother of my children to blow me. This guy was brought up that way. Do you know what I mean? How can I ask the mother of my children to blow me? I go to a whorehouse, she's a goddamn whore, she'll blow me. So I go to a whorehouse because I can't ask my wife to do that. He was a straight man, that's the way he spoke. Now what do you want me to do with him? Say you're fucked up? No. If your wife does whatever you want sexually, if she wants to please you sexually, or not please you, that is, if she doesn't please you, you will tend to seek it elsewhere. Do you know what I mean by that? So some guys are called womanizers. Well, they're not really womanizers, they have different needs. And one person doesn't always meet their needs. Now that's tough on the person that finds you to be the ideal person. If you go out with other women, they say, well, what's the matter with you? Why aren't you satisfied with one? And you say, why aren't you satisfied with many men? You see, you're both right. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing. But when you begin to think there's something wrong with what you're doing, it's society trying to impose their values on you. So you think there's something wrong with you. So you go to a marriage counselor. He says, why do you hate women? You know, whatever. Like I knew a psychologist, very famous, I forgot his name, but his nurse was sitting in the office like that, you know, rocking her leg. He says, why do you want to kick me? Because he was brought up with that school of psychology, the subconscious body language. He believed if a person is neglecting you, or whatever the hell they're training, they're less flexible. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say that if Roxanne were kicking her legs over. Why do you want to kick me? Because I don't buy that package. But there are people that do. And so if you have a participatory democracy and all those people can participate, you're going to have chaos. The qualified area will do better than participatory. That is, you'll let everything go the way it goes naturally. You'll have arguments, jealousy, rage. A guy, if his wife is very beautiful and she goes out with a lot of other men, because she needs to be told, hey, you're beautiful beyond description. You know. She may need flattery. But if you don't flatter your wife, she meets a guy and says, you are the most beautiful thing I ever saw. And she goes with that guy because it makes her feel good. You're a nice guy, but you don't make her feel good. So you get mad at her. You don't really understand all these different needs. It's hard for people to do that. You can't sit back and identify with all the variations. I don't know how people can do that. These are the problem areas. The problem area is trying to find a person with as near parallel values and meet your physical needs, whatever they are. You like your hair stroked, but you're bald, you don't have any hair. And the girl looks for a guy with nice hair. She likes hair. And you can put a wig on. I knew a guy used to come to sessions, and he had a wig, but sometimes he put it on sideways. The part would run this way. You know what I mean? The wind would blow it around, he used to turn it around. And since I lost my hair, I had more girlfriends than ever. I never had a problem with women, but I was a certain type of women I would go for. I wouldn't go for a girl that was just a singer. That wasn't enough. I would be nice to her, don't misunderstand me. But I would not. Your selection is based on your background. In the future, we'll produce very similar values, meaning similar values doesn't mean everybody would be alike. It means palm trees do not always bear coconuts. They vary. So all the kids are trained in different types of plants. And they have the same attitude regarding a coconut tree. You can only get coconuts from a coconut tree. You can't get it from a pine tree. They'll all be alike. Is that bad? No, not if it corresponds with the environment. It would be bad if their views did not correspond with the environment. Do you know what that means? If you don't, I'll elaborate on it. So, maladjusted people sometimes really feel that their decisions are correct. So all the future can do is put them to test to see if their decisions correlate with the physical environment. And Fresco doesn't make those decisions. If you say, I'll never swim in water over my head. Well, if you get in a water that's up to your neck, you can swim and enjoy it. You don't need to swim in a tank 40 feet deep, since you don't use the depth unless you swim underwater. You know, so most swimming pools for children will be so their head's above water, and you can learn to swim or stand up. Now, I had an idea some years ago of putting a net on the bottom of the pool. And if any kid sinks and touches that net, it comes up. So if you're in the kitchen cooking, you can't always look after your children. You're not sitting by the pool every minute. So if a child, they come back, they see the kid floating in the pool, I say, oh my God, what happened? Or if I put a net under the pool, it's better than no net. Or if you design a life preserver that's ejected out when the kids are held, it's ejected out with a cable or a telescopic rod, and the kid grabs a life preserver. But if you say, be careful to the kid, that doesn't help very much. Do you understand the net? Will that be the way? Well, it'll be the way until somebody else comes up with other systems. So let me use a word temporarily, expert systems. Do you think you know what I mean? Competency test in many ways. So it will never be a participatory democracy. But if a guy comes to this session and he says, will it be a participatory democracy? I have to tell him all these things to undo that notion that the majority, whether they be right or wrong, it still gives the majority the right to participate. It sounds very good, very democratic, but it's not. If you can agree with that. If you can't, we can't build a city. So, will Fresco dictate the policy? Fresco doesn't dictate. He says, how many people can you support and how much energy will be consumed in their daily life bringing stuff to the laundromat, or is there a big laundromat in all the buildings? And does the stuff go in the laundromat automatically, or does a physician have to take his own laundry and put it in? Well, I'd rather automate the laundry so that a physician would be doing surgery instead of waste a half-hour washing clothing. And a person that's less competent in surgery and is not competent in any other area at that time, maybe they'd want to do laundry. You know what I mean? I hate to use super competency doing laundry in the city system. Do you understand that? If you're an eye surgeon and there's many blind people in the city and you're helping them, I don't want you cooking or doing laundry. I want a machine doing the cooking or a competent person. I hope if this system is installed, you will need far less advice from psychologists or problem solvers. You won't have to go there. You'll understand why this is done this way. And if you're going to school studying a subject, while you're at it, you might be doing menial tasks that have to be done while you don't have the competency. Is that all right? It's not a cruel punishment. Nobody looks at a dishwasher as a bad person, but the dishes are washed automatically. Because I don't want anybody washing dishes. We can automate any repetitive process, but we have difficulty today automating a process that requires different handling under different conditions. They say that how can machines make decisions? They don't have to. A washing machine washes clothing. It doesn't have to make any decisions. But if you put the wrong type of fabric in the machine, it'll eject it. Do you know what I mean? Like if there's things that shrink or don't shrink, and you don't know that, the machine has to be given that kind of information. Will machines ever think for themselves? Not if the conditions keep varying. They will have to rely on programmers. And until you can state every problem encountered by a machine. Oh, it's very difficult to do that. But can machines be designed to update themselves? Well, you ask a person, what do you mean by update? Person says, well, improve the circuitry. Well, can you design flexible circuitry? No. Well, and when you can, let us know. If you can the machine change its circuitry? Yes, if it's done a certain way. I don't know if you know this, but if you take the spine of a human being and many nerve fibers and rotate it a little bit, they will grow to their own fibers. Did you know that? Even if you cut the spine this way and rotate it, this one will grow back to the one that it's been connected to a certain extent. You can't do a complete loop with it. So if we can improve that extent, we can take people that have spinal injuries. Since the spine seeks out its own nerve fiber, a hell of a lot of money will be put up. Not money, but equipment to do research in that area. You understand? Any area that threatens human beings, any human being, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever today, in an automobile accident, still needs that research. You can have a spinal injury, you can have it, I can have it. So we do all kinds of research. Who decides what's done? The majority of injuries. If the majority of people have eye problems, then more research is done. Not Fresco doesn't say, we'll build an eye clinic because he's got lousy eyes. Do you understand that? Okay. Will everybody be happy with the new system? No, during the transition. But after education, yes. They will understand why things are done that way, unless they can come up with another system. And nobody's restricted. I don't know whether this dissertation will enable people to understand. When you put it out there, I'll know. When I get a reaction, you say, oh, I hate your system. I want to participate, even though I'm not as competent as a competent person. Well, they don't understand my language, I would say. It's a question of understanding, not just a question of me talking to people. I have to ask them, do you see anything in it that you'd like to change? I said, no. Then all right, you're with us. But later on, people might find things they don't identify with. And we'll have to deal with that as it occurs. You can't anticipate everything. Like just recently, there was an earthquake in areas where there are no earthquakes. New York, Washington, D.C. underwent some earthquakes, according to CNN. I think I told you that GE, General Electric, owns major television like NBC. Therefore, they're not going to show the faults of General Electric on NBC. Do you understand? So we can't have any kind of vested interest in the future. I think that the system has to be very flexible, but not democratic. And the other thing you want to discuss? That's a very important subject I want to discuss.
You see the children, as far as them gaining the knowledge that they need, do you see them contributing to the city at an earlier age?
Absolutely.
It depends
When
on
they're 7
them
or 8
passing
years
it.
old, they will make contributions. And I'll let, let's say we're working with 6 or 7-year-olds. They'll set up their own government, but they're instructed in government management and all that, environmental management. You know what that means? Okay. They're instructed that, then you set up your own government. And of course, there'll be limitations and they'll modify it. And it'd be interesting to see them learning how not to get, if you don't give them a medal, if you give them a medal for setting up good government, you're going to hurt a lot of other kids. You can't reward special kids. Do you understand that? You'll make people feel bad. So you have to work out some system between all the systems. So when I have kids manage their own environment, I don't know if I told you this, if 10 kids go out for a walk through the woods, one kid will explain little streams of water and the animal life and the fish life in that stream. Another kid will be a near expert on trees, and another kid on edible foods in nature. So all the kids will have their turn. There's no leader that leads the kids through unless he's much older. Do you understand what I'm saying? I would like the kids to like the idea that 10 kids went out and you know more about animals than I do. Is that a poisonous snake? You say no. How can you tell? And you tell me. So all the kids will tend to like each other. But the guy says, you were the monitor last time. I want to be monitor this time. You're using human systems against each other. Do you understand? Okay. And as long as you do that, you will have problems. So, is your society, the one I talk about, free of problems? No. But it has far less problems than the standard system. Okay? Do you think you'll ever arrive at a time when you'll have no problems like that? Yes, I really do. Through automation. I think that people have to be trained on how to accept the fact that we can't change everything. We can only change certain things. And the Alcoholics Anonymous had a statement. Dear God, give me the power to accept the things I can change. You know, if your brother's run over by a Mack truck and both legs are cut off, you can't change that. You can't say if only he had legs unless you work on legs. So if people learn to accept things, and in turn, when their brother gets run over by a Mack truck, they feel bad, but they do something about it. They study the new leg systems, the new grafting systems, artificial legs. They become involved. That's how I say they care. But they don't care if they pull our hair over the conditions, or want to kill somebody, or hurt somebody. They really don't care. They don't know that they don't care. What you really want is good correspondence with another person. And you don't want to take on their problems, because there are people that are problem solvers during the transition. They have to be educated into new reaction systems. In other words, they have to accept the fact that there's certain things that are beyond our control, like at this time, earthquakes. In the future, there may be a method. There may be a way of controlling tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis. Right now, we have to say they will occur when they occur. And what can we do about it? This is all we know today of what we can do about it. Maybe tomorrow we'll work out many other ways. But with all the people free to think up things, it'll be much easier. I don't think anybody will be held down unless they're born with half a brain. You know, there are anomalies like that. So we want to know people with just the right lobe of the brain, the left lobe never developed. We want to know everything they can do with half a brain. So we can deal with injuries. If a person is in an accident, which there will be, where a tree falls on the head and damages a large portion of the brain, we now know that we can work with quarter brain, or the frontal lobe, or the back lobe. You know what I mean? But there's no need for democracy. There's need for expert systems. And we can't do that right away. I hope you understand me.
The sound drop off.
Democracy, and there's a lot of people that believe that basically people have everything within themselves. You have to bring it out. I don't buy that. Do you understand? People have goodness in them. They have to bring it out, bring out the goodness in the person. No, they have to be conditioned to know how to react. I think if you use the system I use, you will be good. I don't have to say be good. You be kind. This is, to me, this is kindness, using expert systems. Is it perfect? No, it's just better than what we have.
I asked you last week about paranoia or fear.
Well, that's a good protection in this system. In this system, if people plot against you, that's what I mean. There are mental disorders. As the brain disintegrates due to a disease, we become more paranoid because we got to take care of ourselves and we're not able to. Do you know what I mean? So if I see you walking into my bedroom, I think you're going to steal my underwear. Why else would you be in my bedroom? So I'll nurture that. I got to watch him, make sure he doesn't go to my bedroom. You become concerned when you lose your ability to judge old language right from wrong. Do you know what I mean? When you lose that ability, the body tends to protect itself under all circumstances. So a lack of understanding, if you went into my bedroom and you took my underwear, if you came up to me and said, gee, I need extra underwear, I'll give you my underwear. You don't need to go into my bedroom and take the underwear. But if I don't understand you, you might go in my bedroom and take the underwear. But I can understand deprivation. I don't smoke cigars because I believe they're harmful. But they do taste good. But I know that the harm comes later, so I stay away from it. I may enjoy cigarettes, right? You got to smoke on, you know, you got to pop some pot. Well, it may relieve you of many tensions. And I can understand addiction. I'm addicted to not smoke. That's an addiction too. But I think it's more functional. But if you prove to me that there's good aspects of smoking, it releases your tension. Well, that may be, but I don't like cancer at all. And that's the trouble with a lot of cancers. It's not a smooth death, unless they give you narcotics. In the old days, the discovery of opium in small packets were looked upon as the miracle drug. Whatever people suffered from, they took a little bit of that and they felt no pain. So doctors prized it as the miracle drug. Do you know what I mean? So if you have certain fears in this system, a lot of them are justified. I can't say you're wrong, Larry. In this system, predators are out there and they do work on you. And if you notice it in other people, try to ask them why they did this or why they did that, and try to show them that you too are looking for better ways of doing things. That if you admit that you don't know a lot of things have to be researched. And people may not even know how to research it. The method of judging a system is basically how well it works. You know, in semantics, they teach you that the map is not the territory. Do you ever read that? When you look at a road map, that road may have been washed out. So on a road map, the map is not the territory, and that's what they mean by that. So does it mean the semanticist will learn semantics to become better at communication, or proving you wrong with it? Will they reuse it? I taught my relatives semantics, and they became stockbrokers and made a lot of money. I didn't know what they would do with it. They used semantics, and they made money with it. You know what I mean? I hope that more scientists would use semantics for a different reason. You know, you show me a picture of 4 children you've got and say they're all very lovely. You more have to buy a car for me. So what are they for? You're going to buy a car from me. So you live in a system that needs approval. People need approval.
Attorneys always learn semantics, don't they?
No, not always. They do much better if they study semantics. In fact, there are many groups in America. You haven't looked them up in big cities. There are groups that study semantics. Some of them study it to beat the other guy, not as a means of improving communication. And there's also the guy that Edward Bellamy's foundation. Edward Bellamy wrote the book Equality, How to Build a World. Yeah, it was very good if you can get that book. One is called Equality Museum, and the other was Looking Backward. Try to read it. It's very easy to read. And he talks about a different kind of society. You should read it. His parallels are simple, easy to understand, and I think he came from a wealthy family. I think he was religious to start with. That motivated him to want to make a world that's better. He didn't write about it, but I don't think religion offers the methods. They just say, be kind, do something nice for somebody, but that doesn't change society. Is that it?
Yeah.
That's it. Very simple. They don't understand that.
Okay.
We'll find out.
Are there any questions regarding this?
Okay. Check your tab at bottom. I posted a couple of questions there.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. What would be the purpose of a survey, and how would that be different from direct participatory democracy, the survey?
A survey tells you what the conditions are. If you have several thousand hungry people, you know how much water and food to bring into the area. If you don't know that, you can't make appropriate decisions.
Direct participatory democracy really means a lot of people giving their own opinions and not being too competent and not always based on reality or for the betterment of people.
I agree with that.
Okay, do you think society and culture will stop the Venus Project from becoming a reality? Because the way I see people are too far gone with the meaningless views.
I would say we can reach most people because there are ways, different ways of doing it. And once you study that, how to bridge the difference between people, you have more appropriate approaches to the problem. But if you just leave it up to people, they usually do not have the necessary information to modify behavior.
If money is to be raised for the test city, wouldn't the city still have to be created inside a nation or country for now? If so, which country?
I can't decide that. It's outside of my decision-making system.
We would pretty much do it anywhere.
Oh yes, anywhere in the world that they wanted to build an experimental city to test the validity of the Venus Project proposals.
Would the city still have to pay taxes and the citizens?
No. No tax.
No, I'm talking about to the, I think they're talking about to the country that hosts the city.
No. Not within that city.
Jacque was just saying to the country they would have to pay taxes.
We don't change the conduct of a nation, except when they say we'd like to learn more about the Venus Project and how you arrive at decisions.
There's another add-on to the first question in regards of the purpose of surveys. The person asking is, or saying he meant surveys about what people want.
What's the reason for surveys regarding what people want?
That is not a survey that we do. We do a survey of what people need, not what people want. They need food, water, clean air, a relevant education. They don't always know what their needs are.
This person is asking in regards to if there was a city built in another country, would they still have to follow the laws of the country it resides in?
They never get into that city unless they're given a qualification test.
The existence of politicians versus technocrats is often justified for their knowledge of the public's proprietaries and needs. Okay, let me just see what the question is here. For instance, time may be very limited, so what's the legitimacy of a technician to say which tasks to tackle and where the resources would be used first? What's the priority of resources, how they're used?
It depends on many different systems. I cannot offer a decision for that question. It depends on how poorly equipped the city is, whether it has all the facilities to tackle those problems. I can't answer that.
I've heard, we've done writing before in terms of the priorities being energy, food, housing, clothing.
Oh, yeah. And that's the only concerns that we have, how to provide the necessities of life for all the people within the new city.
How does the Venus Project differ from technocracy?
Technocracy has energy certificates. With the advent of nanotechnology, you don't need energy certificates. Technocracy is designed for the United States. The Venus Project is concerned with a global society. Technocracy has all kinds of people in it that offer their own opinions. When I talked to Howard Scott and I asked him why there were no blacks in the organization, he said, let them start their own section. When I talked to him about Orientals, I said, there appears to be no Orientals in technocracy. Howard Scott remarked that the Oriental mind could not grasp technology. Of course, that was a long time ago, and I could not defend that if before the United States that Orientals can't accept technology or that blacks have to start their own section, I could not defend that, so I resigned from the organization.
Technocracy didn't go into the behaviorism that completely either, did they?
They went into it to a very limited extent.
And they didn't have any plans or methodologies?
Well, they said they had blueprints for everything. I have never seen the blueprints except the continental hydrology.
Do you think when Jacque dies and then the first city is built, it will turn into something other than what Jacque has worked out?
It depends on how long I live.
Depends on how much people understand of this direction as well.
Yes.
If you let landscapers decide the landscape, architects decide the houses, car designers decide the cars, you will have not decided the most important democratic question: who decides how much resources the landscaper, the architect, the car designer, etc. gets?
What's available depends on what's available at the time.
That's what the survey is for. The survey has to be done first to see what we have to work with.
We have a shortage of material, we have to make substitute materials.
If a member of the public wishes to be an inventor, how much access would they have to materials, and how would they go about getting the required materials needed for their designs?
They really don't do that. What happens is, if a person says, I'd like to become a dental surgeon, he has to go to school and study dentistry and the conditions that dental surgeons are subjected to.
There are also workshops available to people to learn
Everywhere.
things, yes, and do things. And if you have an idea but you can't build things, there are other people who like to build things, but they don't really have ideas, and very often they will be very helpful
I think
to
that
other
would
people.
be a relatively easy problem to solve.
How would the education system work? i.e., would students be able to select their classes to take according to their interests from an
Yes.
early age?
Yes.
Would they have specific lesson plans to do to a certain age? Will they be required to learn certain things?
They have to learn the fundamentals of a resource-based economy.
And scientific
Science and
method.
technology necessary to make it work.
Somebody's asking if you've ever smoked marijuana.
I've tried it. It did nothing for me.
Somebody's asking what kind of qualification tests. What could you be specific on that?
Yes. If you know nothing about hydrology, you cannot design a skyscraper's pumping system for moving water up to different heights. You have to understand the basic principles of hydrological methods. If you know nothing about oceanography, it's very difficult to participate in the development or solving ocean problems. You'd be given a fundamental exposure to oceanography in order to participate. That goes for all areas of the service functions.
And how do you tell if they're qualified? What would the test be like?
How well they could work a system. What solutions they bring to a system. How much they really understand of the system. That's the qualifications. Whether their system works. How well the system works determines their qualifications.
How will different non-essential manufacturing, essential manufacturing would be differentiated? Okay, how would you differentiate between, say, how would resources be allocated between guitars or violins?
Well, you have a public library with more instruments than people check out, just like the public library. All distribution centers work identical to the public library. You can check out a lawnmower or a violin for 2 weeks or a month, whatever time you wish to use it. But you have to inform the checkout library as to how long you would like to have it.
That's the whole basis of all the designs in a resource-based economy. So there's more resources to go around, so there is abundance as quickly as possible. This is the aim, trying to achieve abundance in all fields. Can you provide a criteria for selection of people to be allowed to enter the new city?
If the new city is occupied by the planners, you have to ask people what their profession is and what they feel they can contribute in relation to the needs of the new city. If they do not have any qualifications, we tell them what is needed and what you have to study to be able to assist.
And that goes for understanding this direction, so they can help people
Yes.
train and
Read our books.
educate other
look at-
people in this
study
direction.
our tapes. If you read our books and study our tapes, it'll enable you to understand it much better. And if you discuss what you read with other people, you can solidify your viewpoints in areas of misunderstanding. What is needed is a great deal of clarification between the old language and the new language.
This is the same kind of questions, but after the survey, if there was a certain quantity of resources, how would the distribution of that resource be done through all the areas involved in meeting people's needs?
If a new disease spreads out that is very difficult to control, high priorities will be given to research in that area. That goes for all areas of difficulty. Priorities are given by the number of people that need that kind of thing or service.
So we give landscapers, architects, etc., all the resources they ask for. That is not possible.
Oh, I can't argue with that.
Well, I mean, there are a certain amount of resources that are needed for whatever job has to be done. And if the resources aren't available, that's what scientists are put on to develop.
That's what they do research in.
To develop
making materials
that are
scarce. Making substitute materials that can serve similar functions.
What about non-essential, non-shared items for personal use? What if a musicians want to have their own guitars? Certainly.
They can make them if they want to.
If they have something that they use all the time, of course.
Yes.
Okay, how would the decision be used whether the item should be manufactured as a shared model or a private item? It depends on how much use they have. If they have a need for something all the time, then it would be kept with them. How will we go about doing a survey to know where to build the first city?
We can build the first city any place where the land is made available and the resources.
If we had our choice, preferably the land
Should be in the tropics
flat land.
and flat land.
It would just be easier. Wouldn't take as much resources initially. And we could use solar energy as well. Is it necessary that we know the exact amount of resources on Earth before we start a resource-based economy? Or can a resource-based economy happen without necessarily being so exact on how much resources there are on Earth?
Yes, it can.
When
you need not have all the resources immediately. So you build it within those limitations, and you announce the fact that it's limited. And you also announce approximately how long it'll take to build up enough resources to handle a specific problem.
The person is saying, it seems to me that people generally have a problem with making priorities. Why or how is this different in the future?
Well, in the future, there are orders of priority, like public health and well-being may be number one. Education may be number two. It depends on the importance at the time that the Venus Project is installed.
When the first city is built, the Venus Project doesn't make a profit. How do we keep a city functioning and expand and build more cities? If the first city doesn't make a profit, how do you expand?
I don't know what profit making is, but the term profit making to me is only used during a monetary system.
If we're in a transition between the monetary system and the resource-based economy, and the first city is built and needs money.
It needs property, materials, concrete, not money. That's what resource-based economy means, that you have access to resources. Money is not resource. Money is artificial. You're still thinking within the monetary system.
How much land and resources would be needed to build the first city?
That isn't the question. How much will be granted to us to build the first city?
That would depend on the size. Anything else? We'll take a couple more, if there are any.
Yeah, hang on. Not directly related to today's topic. If you want to go into religion, I can pass you something on.
Okay, you can pass it on. This person's from India, and there's a lot of religion in his nation. How do you tackle religion and dogma in some place like India?
you have to write many different versions of religion and present those different versions to all people. And they will select the most appropriate religion for their own views. When you go to work for a company and you start talking religion, they say, we want you to stay with the ball bearings, not on company time. In other words, religion can be talked about at philosophical meetings, but not on company time, meaning the resource-based economy concerns itself with providing for human needs that are essential.
Please ask Jacque about the issue of trust. People feel that democracy can be trusted because everyone votes. How can people trust the decisions that are arrived at in a resource-based economy?
Well, in the monetary system, you really don't trust them. You say, put it on paper, and an attorney writes that up so that your performance is more apt to be accurate.
And you don't pick the people.
You have contracts.
You don't pick the people you vote on either.
No.
You really have very little participation.
Although you have the illusion that you pick the people.
It depends on how the media sways how things are going, that they can sway the decision-making of people considerably. How can people trust the decisions that are arrived at in a resource-based economy?
It isn't a question of trust. It's a question of the competence of the survey committee. And once the survey committee begins to give you information, you have access to the same system that the survey committee has for making a decision or arriving at a decision. We put things to test. Before we let a Mack truck go over a bridge, they go over scales first to see what they weigh, to make sure that it would be a safe venture going over a bridge. But that's already done today.
I think also it depends, the word trust that they use,
We don't use trust. We use scales, scientific scales of performance, not trust. Those words disappear in a resource-based economy.
People would understand that when it sees that it meets their needs more so than what's happening today.
You have to watch our films. You have to watch our films and read our books. That's all we require of you, is that you read and become better informed, rather than just toss out a bunch of questions. You might find it on our website.
Resource-based economy, constitutional law, human rights, and international law. How important is it? Do people in a resource-based economy need basic laws, rules, or laws, and how?
They need to understand how scientists arrive at decisions. Once they understand that, they know how to go about making a decision, or I should say, arriving at a decision. You can't put 500 passengers in an airplane that can only carry 95 people.
No matter how many laws you have on it working.
If the laws do not correspond to the physical environment, they would be set aside.
There are laws about not stealing in this culture because of the incompetency of the culture itself, how poorly it's designed and how there's so much inequity in it. So you make laws, don't steal. That protects the people in power who have the money and who have the things. They make the laws.
Yes, of course.
The laws are really erroneous. You can't make any laws on how many breaths you take a minute if it doesn't meet the needs of the body to exist.
Yes, of course.
So laws are really erroneous. You don't need them.
Laws are crude attempts to control behavior.
You wouldn't need them if people's needs are met.
Right. Even people's changing needs have to be met. They're not fixed.
Can the Venus Project start selling technologies, any technologies, in the monetary system to fund what it wants to do parallelly?
Yes, apparently we all live in the monetary system. And if we have books printed, they do not print the books for nothing. They do charge us. So we have to we have to be able to afford those books and tapes. So we have to participate in some way in a monetary system until we get to the conditions that warrant the installation of a resource-based economy.
We're not in a position right now to sell technologies. We're really mainly interested in having people understand this direction and changing values. So our books and our videos correspond with that, although we give a lot away too.
Yes, that's true.
Assuming the resources are available, how long would it take to construct the first city?
I'd have to know what kind of resources are available.
How big the city would be? And
how many people, how much water it needs,
yeah.
How much arable land. I can't make that decision unless I have all that information.
It would be much quicker than any other city, though, because
yes.
Yeah, because a lot of things would be fabricated and a lot of things would be duplicated.
That would be the intelligent management of limited resources.
What design of city layout would be used for the first city? Jacque literally has hundreds of city designs here, but it really just depends on where it would be, how many, what the needs of the city are.
Population, its density,
Yeah.
its education. We'd have to know how many engineers, how many architects they have in that area. And
What the
it
use
takes
of the
many
city is
bits
for.
of information to come up with a procedural system to carry out the necessary process to build those cities.
Is it not arrogant to claim ruling over resources by just humans without considering all living beings sharing this existence?
We share with as many people as we possibly can.
I think they're talking about animal life and the environment.
Yes, we do consider the symbiotic principles of the interrelationship of nature and humans.
Right, we can't exist without them.
That's true.
Without it. So it's a major priority. I guess that's it for today.
Well, thank you for participating and thank you for asking these questions. I hope some of you understand most of the answers. If not, you can consult our website. There are lots of questions that are answered on the website.
Yeah. Okay, thanks everyone. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you, Jacque and Roxanne, for being here today. Thank you, everyone else, also for being here and listening in. Hope we see you next Sunday. And if you have any other questions meanwhile, contact either admin@thevenusproject.com or send your questions to questions@thevenusproject.com.